Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Meaningful Learning, Creating Memorable and Fun Classroom Experiences. My name is Jamie McPherson, and I'm super excited that you are joining in with us today. My goal being that you leave today feeling like you have some practical ways to make those experiences in the classroom not only fun, but also meaningful and memorable. So with that, we'll jump in. You will get a recording of this webinar. So if you, would like to watch this again, or just maybe go back to revisit some of the facts or the resources that we've made available, you'll be able to do that shortly after this webinar is done. And you also have an available resource, and I believe Heather is going to throw that into the chat box for each of you. You'll also be able to access that after the webinar. You'll be emailed the link to that along with that recording link. And speaking of Heather, Heather is joining here with us today. Heather, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
Awesome, thanks, Heather. So Heather will be handling the behind the scenes stuff. So if with tech issues or anything else that comes up, she is there to help us out with that. So we will jump in now to the nitty gritty. So I want to know first who's here. So Heather's going to put that poll into play for us. So what grade do you teach? Are you lower elementary, upper elementary, middle school, high school, or other? Go ahead and make that selection. And then Heather, feel free whenever you feel ready to close that down. You see those when you see those coming in.
All right, so we have 13% K through 12, 38% is 3 through 5, and 13% 6 through 8, 13% 9 through 12, and 25% other or admin.
Awesome, oh, pretty good mix today. So again, welcome to all of you. So we'll we're going to jump into the content in a moment. Before I do that, I want to share with you a little bit about the sponsor of this webinar, Blue Apple. Blue Apple projects are project-based learning units that engage your students. They teach the content that you need to teach and ultimately make the world a little bit of a better place. So when you purchase these projects, they come with a project plan and supplies. There's also an online platform that you're able to navigate through lesson by lesson. There's also options to do your teaching however you wish, whether that's in person or virtual or hybrid. And so that's an option that's made available for all those projects as well. We connect you with real world experts and those on the topics that are important. So, you know, if we're talking about health and nutrition, there's a real world expert for that connected. So it also includes all of those cross-curricular content standards K-8. So we can so that you can kind of guide your instruction according to those really great learning experiences and know that you're hitting the content as well, and also collaboration options made available to you. So if you are interested in checking those out, get started at blueappleteacher.org, and we'll talk at the end of this webinar about that as well. So we're going to frame up this webinar today with three kind of topics or buckets or categories, however you want to look at that, but three big ideas I'd like to say. So relevance, experience, and impact. And when we're talking about meaningful learning, these are the three areas I think are hugely important. And so you'll get some strategies in each of these areas, and hopefully also take away some just some insightful information that'll help guide your school year. So we'll get started with relevance. So when we're talking about relevance in the classroom, it's that information that you think is important and that you know you have to teach, paired up with the consideration of your students' interests, what interests them. And that happy middle is what's relevant. So very important, because of course we want our students to be as interested in the information we're putting in front of them as we are. And I like this quote, and again, it was one amazing teacher that said it, I'm not sure who, but a critical piece of every educator's job is to convince students' brains that the ideas being taught are worth thinking deeply about. And so I love framing up this topic of relevance in that way, because we do have to do some heavy convincing oftentimes to get our students to understand why this information is important. And so with that thinking, I like to put this relevance on a continuum. And so there's three there's on the lower end of relevancy, we have this personal association. So let's say that we have a science article, maybe on rockets, that we want our students to read. If they have a personal association with it, they might take that article and find it relevant at a low level by simply saying that, oh yeah, I've heard about rockets before, or I've read about NASA. So they have some sort of small personal association with that. In the middle there is personal usefulness. So this is when our students are able to see, you know what, I have an idea, I have a feeling that been given this article to read because my teacher's going to find that I'm going to have to put this information to use in some sort of way. So that's personal usefulness. And then on the top end of that identification, students who love science and love maybe the idea of NASA and dream of going to space one day, this is a topic that's hugely relevant to them. They identify with it. It's a part of who they are. And so showing them relevancy is going to be much easier because they're already there. But the question we ask is, how do we get those on the lower end there, in that personal association level? So we're going to get ready to launch into another poll, but before we do, I just want you to consider any lesson that comes to mind. So if you're an elementary teacher, it could be in any subject area or a series of lessons. If you're a middle or high school teacher, maybe it's a specific math lesson or a science lesson or an ELA lesson. But thinking about that, and for most of your students, as we look at this continuum, where do these lessons fall? Is it at the personal association level? Is it at the personal usefulness level, or is it at the identification level? So just take your average student, you know, or the majority of your students, where do you feel these associated lessons fall? Heather's going to launch that for us. And we'll just take a moment to consider this. And again, oftentimes it's not necessarily in the way we go about teaching, it's more on what we have to teach, right? And so that's where we can be creative, is in the way that we teach that information. But where do you think for most of your students these fall? Personal association, personal usefulness, or identification? Heather, feel free when you're feeling like there's enough responses in to go ahead and end that poll and share out the results.
All right, I'm just waiting for a few more responses to come in here. Okay, 40% agree with personal association, 40% personal usefulness, and then the remaining 20% is identification.
And, you know, that's right where I kind of imagine it too. You know, we can see in lots of ways that our students can attach to information because they've heard of it before, or they know they're gonna have to put it to use. But very infrequently do we find that the content we know we have to teach is at the identification level. So what can we do about it? That's the big question here. And there are things that we can do, of course, to really build that relevancy. One thing, and we're really good at this as educators, is making that content relatable. So just designing anything that we're putting in front of our students with students' prior knowledge in mind. So thinking things and using things like analogies, metaphors, and even practical examples of things that we know they've learned about in the past will enable them to connect that material from what they already know to what they are going to learn. And so ultimately, when we're talking about relevancy, we want to answer this question: what does this have to do with me, right? And students are very much in that me mindset. So how can they relate to it? So for example, if we're teaching, let's say the perimeter of an acre of land, okay, or area, or we're teaching area, it's much more difficult for somebody living in like the city of Chicago to understand what that looks like. So even as simple as making telling personal stories or examples that relate to the students is an easy way to kind of get that relevancy rolling with our students. And so when we take a look at this this relevancy scale again, the strategy I want to share with you is an easy one to implement, and it's called rank the relevance. So let's just say you put this out to your students, this relevancy scale, and we can look at it in this way. So to make it a little more student-friendly language, we can say for personal association, I've learned something about this topic before, right? That gives an idea of what that actually means. Personal usefulness, we could say, I know I'll have to put this to use at some point. And then identification, this topic is very important to me. So then we'll have our students, we'll bring up the topic, the content that we're teaching at the beginning, and just say, you know, where does this fall for you? you. And so we know that we take our whole class, let's pretend we have this whole kind of, the continuum extends from the very beginning personal association, the very low end, to the very high end. We know that when we're engaging these students, it's going to take a little more work because they're not, it's not a part of who they are yet. And so what can we do to really amp that up in what we're teaching and put things in front of them that really do get them excited and make that content relatable? So rank the relevance, a good strategy. Another one I want to talk to is don't underestimate inspiration. You know, you all have wonderful ideas and you're passionate about a lot of things. And honestly, that's probably why some of you chose this as a career. So think about the things that you're passionate about and run with them, because your students will see you're going to exude that passion and your students are going to hook onto that, and they love you, so they're going to love the content. And so I have to put a coworker of mine on stage here. That is, the arrows pointing to Corey there, and he has created a summer camp called Harry Potter. He loves Harry Potter, and called Hogwarts in Grand Rapids. And so it's a very science heavy exploratory summer camp, but students, it's all in that Harry Potter-esque theme. So really cool. And again, this is probably might be one of the most favorite camps that we do here in Grand Rapids at the Andel Institute for Education. So again, getting to that point though, that your students will, if you love it, likely they'll learn to love it too. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. When I used to teach kindergarten, and I also taught 4th grade, but as a kindergarten teacher, and to this day, I love Eric Carle, wonderful author, illustrator. And one of the things that I would always do is decorate my classroom like Eric Carle, dressing up, that's not me, but dressing up like you know, a character out of Eric Carle, and just making my classroom and the bulletin boards and all that, but really tying to that idea that if I love it, I have a feeling they'll love it. So we call this strategy teacher features. So don't be afraid to feature you. They love you. Again, I can't say that enough. So emphasizing those things that you like, they will like too. The next thing to talk to is this idea of leading with engagement. And there are so many things that we can talk to about just captivating their interest from the start, those engagement hooks. So anytime we can utilize things like conflict, surprise, or stories, mysteries, puzzles, all those type of things to captivate our students' interest, we're almost guaranteed to generate a significant amount of learner interest, simply because they just have that desire to know, right? They want to know about the topic. We've captivated them, and the interest is high. So how do we build those? Well, I want to show you a few really kind of easy ways to do that. So I don't know if you've ever heard of TED Ed math puzzles, but if you haven't, for math specifically, especially upper L, middle, and high school, there's so many good math puzzles. They're videos, and they tell you when to stop the video. They're really, really great for teaching kind of high-level math concepts in a very highly engaging way. So check those out. I've linked to those in that resource that you have access to. Also, this element of surprise. So, you know, discrepant events are really cool, right? Where kids think something is going to happen and actually doesn't, something very different happens. And so I just want to quickly show this, and I hope this works. That's perfect. So, you know, so we see the candles, both candles are lit. In a moment, okay, that candle gets blown out, and without even touching the wick of that candle, just hovering over the smoke of that candle, it lights. And so getting kids to wonder, right? And a lot of times it's just that. How can we build this excitement and wonder around topics that we're teaching? And so there's I've linked to several of those ideas as well in that resource. So another great way to kind of captivate their interest from the get-go. And then puzzles. This comes from Meet the Pentominoes, an activity that's actually in one of our games resource. It's a resource that we have. And so I encourage you to check out all of the games within there. Again, these are all free resources that we made available to all teachers. So that is linked in there as well. But again, if you're teaching, you know, again, if we're talking about area and perimeter and things like that, pentominoes are a great way to do that. And there's some really fun ways to captivate them, their interest level, and get them playing. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. And then the other strategy I want to talk to you about is the mystery box. So when we, you know, anytime students can feel like there's something that they know is happening, but they're not sure what it is, again, high level interest. So the mystery box is a wonderful way to do that. So what you do is you would put either, you know, 3 or 4 objects in the box that all are connected in some way. Maybe it's around the content. So if you're teaching about bees, you can put in lots of, you know, a bee hat or a beehive and things like that all relate, and have students make that connection. Or one of my favorite ways to utilize this is put things in there that loosely connect, and then have students take the items out of the mystery box and make a connection to those objects that have really seemingly no connection at all. A great way to lead into some new learning and also get students kind of creatively and critical thinking about a certain topic. The next one I want to share. Oh, before we share any more, I want to ask you guys. So we've heard a few of these strategies. One was rate the relevance. The other was teacher features, and then several engagement hooks. Which of these are you most interested or excited to try out? Heather's going to launch that poll for us. And as you guys are all filling out that poll, if there's anything that that kind of captivates your interest and you want to know more about, please don't hesitate to email me. I love sending you resources of things that we have to help with that. So, so feel free to send me an email if there's something more you would like to know or you'd like to know more about. Heather, feel free whenever you're ready to close that down.
All right. So it looks like 17% are interested in rank the relevance, 33% are interested in teacher features, and then 83% are interested in engagement hooks.
Awesome. We have a lot of examples for those engagement hooks. So thank you, Heather. Wonderful. And again, like I said, if you want more of those ideas, feel free to send me an email and I'll send some things your way. And with that, we'll move into the second component of our 3, which is experience. And just knowing that all genuine learning comes through these experiences that we provide our students with. And so using that to make learning meaningful and fun is really important. So we can look at this under kind of 2 frameworks. The first one being that, that in the class experience, inside of those 4 walls of our classroom. Look at this is outside of those 4 walls of our classroom in the world and community around them. And so what can we do? So in this case, there's a group of students who are creating a game night for their school. And so they're doing a mini golf course and they're trying out lots of things, incorporating a lot of math and science into this. And so again, a fun way to make those experiences 3 things: authentic, interactive, and collaborative. And all of those are really, really important when it gets down to making those rich learning experiences in our classroom. Another thing is just stepping outside of the 4 walls of our classroom and finding ways to connect with the community. And that's just equally important because it shows students the power that they can have in their community. They alone, and especially with those classmates, can really make a difference. So building those rich experiences outside of our classroom walls as well. When we're thinking about doing these any given learning experience, sometimes we look at these and we're like, oh my goodness, that seems like so much work. And how do I know the content is connected? Well, I want you to look at it in 2 kind of frameworks. The first being, we can look at it like we have the content, we know that we have to teach. What experience can I build off of that? So we can start with the content. Another way to look at it is not starting with the content as much as starting with the experience. Maybe you know there's something really fun that you want to do. Your students have asked you to do. You've seen done by other classrooms or other schools, and you want to do that. So take that on, because again, it goes back to the idea of passion, but also there is so many ways to connect content when you found something like this. So maybe it's, again, you could talk to force in motion and lots and lots of figuring out a slope. There's lots of math that's involved in science with a lot of these engagements that are like this. And so thinking about it in 2 ways: start with the content or start with the experience. But either way, you're going to find ways to make that content matter and make that experience rich. The next thing is making play a part of their day. So just having students participate in that learning process alone really does build meaning and interest whenever we can. And now we see this in elementary teachers. You are so good at this, especially the K2, those K2 teachers. You do this all the time. This is just a natural part of your everyday. But it's harder for middle and high school teachers to find ways to do this, because we think of little kids as kids who play, but we very seldomly think of middle school and high school students as kids who play, and we still should. And so there's lots of ways that we can incorporate play with all of our students, K-12 and beyond. So one way that we can do this is called messing about. So just gathering some materials, and this is one that we've done with magnets. So we know as teachers, if we were just to hand them this tray of stuff and say that we're going to use it and put it to use right away, we would, for our really little kids, we'd lose them, right? They'd be so excited to play with it. And again, we want them to. So build in that opportunity to give them that time to play with those materials before you teach the content. In high school, maybe it's giving them some spreadsheets with information, but taking away the X and Y axes. So they don't know what the information is. Have them draw judgments or look at the information, or maybe play with the numbers a little bit to try to figure out what those graphs or spreadsheets are showing. So there's ways that all the way up that we can get our students involved in play every day. The next idea I want to talk about is giving students choice. And again, teachers, you are so good at this, but just making sure to bring light to this. Anytime that we can put that the steering wheel in our students' hands, all the better. So through this, they do so many good things happen, but they begin to develop that an understanding that subject that they're learning, they can identify with it, with the ideas in their own way, and they find it personally valuable. And so this is really, really essential when we talk about not only experience but relevancy as well. So what can we do? One thing that we can do, and these are used, and these are out there, so many options. If you just Google choice board, you'll see so many of them. But I love this idea when we're thinking about giving students choice in how we want them to learn the content. So we could tell them, maybe they're an artist and they would like to draw it out. Maybe they want to create something. Maybe they just want to brainstorm and talk to another individual and create a list. Maybe they want to write about it. So just giving them options and how they want to learn the content. And maybe it's content specific. If you're learning about the water cycle, you give them lots of options and ways that they can take in the content. Or maybe it's through, you can give students choice in how they demonstrate their learning and understanding. And so we call this the Cpa Progression. And this is just, it's a model for how students learn. And so specifically in math. So this comes from a teacher professional development that we do, where we get teachers playing the role of students, and we teach them the basic system. And so the first thing we have them do is we have them model it concretely. So they have manipulatives and they're trying to figure this out. Then we have them draw it pictorially. So can they represent it in a pictorial kind of way? And then when we get to true understanding, they can solve it abstractly. So they can just show the numbers, and believe it or not, 15 times 2 equals 34. And they begin to learn that in a basic system. So again, if that PD is something that interests you, tell your admin. We'd love to come to your school and make that part of your PD experience. But again, that Cpa progression is another way to get them to demonstrate their learning and understanding, and giving them choice. How do you want to show what you know? And so really, really powerful. And also just providing authentic experiences for our students. So again, it's just seeking out those learning opportunities that answer that other question. Yeah, but what am I going to use this for, right? Students want to know that what they're learning in class has meaning outside of our classroom walls. So how do we do that? And so just giving them experiences that build or actually answer that question is incredibly powerful. So one way to do that is to bring in the experts. It's simple. If you're learning about germs or exploring, you can bring in a scientist, or you can bring in a doctor, or they could just talk to that idea of how germs spread and be more of play that teacher role. Or if you can bring in an expert to kind of analyze student work. And when we do those things, it really amps up what our students produce, because they know now that someone is going to be coming in to our classroom that's an expert in the area, in the field, and evaluating the work they did. So both incredibly powerful. So for this one, which strategies for experience are you most interested in trying out? Is it the choice boards? Is it the Cpa progression? Or is it meet the experts? And again, all of them great strategies. And if you need help in any of those areas, send me an email. I'd love to send some great resources your way, in addition to the resource you've already been given. So, and again, Heather, whenever you're ready, feel free to close that down.
All right, I'm just watching for a few more responses to come in here. Okay. So it looks like 100% wants to try choice boards, 33% would like to try Cpa progression, and 33% would like to try meet the experts.
Awesome. And choice boards are one of my very favorite things to utilize in the classroom as well, because again, it does give students ownership over their learning. So thank you all for participating in that. And with that, we'll move into impact. And I say this for last because I think this really does move the needle on meaningful learning when students know that what they're doing actually has an impact to the broader world outside. And so how do we do that? Well, one thing we can do is to simply make learning involved. And that sounds so simple, right? And we're like, oh, I do that already. And we do a really good job of that. But what we really want to get to with our students is this level that where they come to school every single day because they're excited to be a part of an experience, and that experience is what empowers them to, it makes that content relevant. And they're doing that through these lived or live real world experiences, and so they immerse themselves in these experiences and they begin to identify with them and they hold them personally valuable, and I think that's really, really powerful. And the other thing we would like to do is to get them excited and interested in around a topic. So let's say that we're telling our students, one of the things that we have to learn this year is how to write a speech and how to write and present a speech. And so rather than just having them present and write a speech to the class, which is an okay audience as well, take it a step further and have them take a stand on something that they truly believe in and something they want to see change in, and watch the level of work and the energy and excitement just really be amped up, simply because they know that they're taking a stand for something they believe in, and that work is encompassing in the sense that they are going to go out and they're going to write that speech and they're going to present that speech, but they're going to present it to an audience of maybe in the community, and this is an event and they're really going to be a big active role in it. So thinking about ways that we can do that, and sometimes that seems like such a big idea, but it really is easier than we might anticipate. And so there are lots of ways to do this. We can do this by we kind of call these our 4 buckets of impact. And so by making learning involved and matter, we can raise money, we can raise awareness, we can build relationships, or we can design solutions. And at the heart of all of these is that idea of all of this is service oriented, right? Helping somebody else out. And that's just a citizen skill that we all need to have. And it's kind of hard to teach to unless we are giving them these experiences. So one thing that we can do when we're talking about raising money, this is you see lots of pictures here, but one of them, if you look up here, these are Pontiac summer school students in Pontiac, Michigan, who raise money to help solve cold cases in their community. So again, really powerful and probably directly related to some students that were engaged in that work. And then these are students down here at the bottom are students at San Juan Diego Academy. They raised money for space exploration and environmental protection, just something that they believed in and they wanted to make a difference in. So that's one way to how raising money can help to fund or make that impact. Another way is just by raising awareness. So again, at the heart, it's service oriented, but this is Nixa Public School students. They created PSAs or public service announcements to stop the spread of germs. So they were really hooked on the idea that we had to wash our hands better and have better hygiene practices in order to stop the spread of germs. So another great cause, raising awareness. And then another one is just designing solutions. So these students designed murals to brighten businesses in the town that they lived in. Another great way to make use of maybe a wall that and just kind of beautification, right? And that's powerful too in the community. This middle picture here shows an invention that was created by a student to protect from active shooters. And again, it's the world we live in, right? But how incredible that a teenager turned that terrible thing into something that's useful, practical, and necessary in some cases. So again, really powerful work. And then this other one shows students who use ceiling tiles to share book recommendations, right? This is something that we all look up and we're like, there's nothing there, right? And so again, the idea of beautification, designing a solution to make it look pretty. And again, a lot of pride taken from the work that's involved here. And finally, building relationships. So again, at the heart of it, service oriented. This is a group of students, a classroom of students at Rockford Public Schools here in Michigan. Students created biographies for senior citizen friends that they got to meet and know. And this is such an incredible way to not only build relationships, but really get to the idea that we do have connections across the ages. And so I love this project. And if you're interested in it, this one's called Moments to Remember. This is actually a project-based learning unit that we have at Blue Apple. And I'd love to share more about it if you're interested. But again, we talk about all these, making experiences that matter, being relevant, and also being impactful. So how do we do that all? And if you want to do it all, one thing I highly recommend is PBL. And it's just a solid way to really make everything you're teaching matter for students. And we can tie content into anything. I always say that it's always possible. Again, simply because students are doing work that's real to them. It's authentic to their lives, and the work that they're doing has a direct impact on and use in the real world. So there's lots and lots of projects out there, and we have some as well here at Blue Apple that we'd love to either give you or which we're going to do in a moment maybe, and or if you'd just like to know more and you want to order them for your school or for your classroom, I'm an email away, so you can ask me about those. But I want to start by again offering you a free Blue Apple project. So it's really simple. So all you have to do is email me either an idea you have for an upcoming webinar. We always love new topics and building our content around what you guys, all of you teachers feel you need or want. Or maybe you have a teaching topic that you want to blog about. We post blogs very often around here. So if there's something that you're passionate about and you want to write a blog about it and get it posted, we'd love to host that for you. Or maybe you just have a great strategy that you want to share with us. And again, we love collecting strategies and sharing them out with teachers. So feel free to email me any of those at jamie.mcpherson@vaei.org. by tomorrow. That's Thursday, 8/18 to be entered. Tomorrow, I will pick a winner from those that have emailed me, and you will get your very own Blue Apple project of your choosing. And if you don't win, that's okay, right? Because we have 10% off on your next project. So if you just use code webinar at blueappleteacher.org, that'll give you 10% off of that project. So one other thing I want to talk to you quickly about is PD. We have a great array of PD offerings, and there's over 60 you'll see on our website. But if it's not there, one of our other favorite things to do is to build that for you. So tell your administrator to bring us to your school. We love making teachers feel validated. We love having fun with our teachers, and we truly believe that that's the best way for PD to be effective. And so visit blueappleteacher.org/flexpd for those options. And I want to leave today with just a quick positive note, letting you know that I think what you do is amazing every day, and I don't know what we would do without all of you. So I hope this school year is wonderful for each of you, and I am an email away if you need anything at all, jamie.mcpherson@vaei.org. Thank you, everyone.